Kristen, and this is the Halloween Creature book tag. So this tag I found on a WordPress by Anthony at Keep Reading Forward, but it was an inactive WordPress, so you know. But I was looking for like a Halloweeny tag to do, and this one interested me. It basically lists a bunch of different Halloween creatures, monsters, and has like a prompt attached to each of those. I've tried to go somewhat Halloweeny. I've got a spider ring. I have a spider on my corset top, but you can't really see it in this video. This is a different location to like usual tag videos, which I normally do at my house in my room. I was planning to film this the other day, but then my mum wasn't very well, so she was around. So instead I've lugged several books into work so I can film this during my break at work. Is that a sensible decision? Probably not, but that's what I've done. So if you've seen any of my vlogs, you may have seen this as a background because it's the quietest room in the building. I don't have all the books with me because some of these answers are for books that I've like unhauled or are actually my sister's. So anyway, prompt 1 is witch, a magical character or book. And for that I have gone with The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek. This is a Norse mythology retelling about Angrboda, who is a wife of Loki, or not necessarily his wife. She has children with Loki, the trickster god, and this very much has a lot of magic running through it. Angrboda is a witch. Throughout the novel, she like loses power, comes into power, like regains power. This one my friend gave me as a present and I really loved it. There's a lot about like family and relationships and like a mother trying to protect her children. So this one really great, very like old school magic, lots of like herbs and healing and that kind of thing. And then also all of her children are not regular children. She has, I think, a snake and a wolf and a little girl who turns into stone, if I remember correctly. So yes, very magical. Really good. So that is my witch prompt. For prompt 2, werewolf, the perfect book to read at night. Now I have chosen a book that I liked, didn't love, but felt very atmospheric to read at night, and that is 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. This is about a group of, I think, seniors in high school, or they've just left high school, 6 young friends, and they go on a road trip, and the RV that they are in breaks down in like the middle of nowhere, and then they realize that there is a sniper outside the RV. So that like hooked me, that premise. And the whole thing takes place in the course of one night from like roughly 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And so I read it. There's a blog on my channel of me reading it from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I read it in real time as much as I could. And yeah, it was like fine. It was an okay book. I think that really added to the atmosphere and the feel of it. Would I recommend you do the whole 8 hours at night? But it was fun. I had a lot of fun with it. So yes, this is a good one to read like at night. Prompt 3 is Frankenstein, a book that truly shocked you. We're going back to another Miss Holly Jackson and going with As Good as Dead. This is the 3rd book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy, and this has like a twist, something that happens about halfway through that just completely changes the game, to be quite honest. Really shakes things up. And I found it shocking and like really anxiety inducing. But this one was, yeah, very intense end to a trilogy that almost felt like shocking while feeling inevitable in a way. But this one, I've seen people love this one, I've seen people hate this one. I liked it. Pip is a wild main character. Choices were made in this book by the characters and by the author. So yes, this one genuinely shocked me as I realised what was happening. Prompt 4 is the devil, a dark or evil character. And that is the defendant from Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. This is about a bunch of young women who live in a sorority, and their sorority is attacked, and 2 girls are like horribly assaulted, mutilated, and 2 girls are murdered. And you also get like insights into other timelines where women are assaulted and murdered, and it all works out. And other women in the story are like main characters, work out that it is the same man, this serial killer, who throughout is known as the defendant. And he's just such a horrible character. I believe this is sort of based on the Ted Bundy murders. And you definitely get that with the way the defendant is portrayed, because our main character talks about how the media takes this perspective of him that he's like very clever, very charming. Young women find him handsome and almost like become like fans of this man who's done such horrific things to women. And how he becomes like an icon, a celebrity, when really he's just a pathetic, horrific, disgusting man. And so reading about him and like the way he acts on top of the things he does just like makes me feel sick to my stomach. He is a horrible character. This is such a well-written book, really focuses on like the women, the victims, and their friends, and the repercussions of like them dying and having horrible things happen to them, while like the world focuses on the man who did it. I thought this was a really great take on like the true crime sort of industry, although this is fiction. But this one was really good. But the defendant is like such a dark, horrible character, so I went with that. Prompt 5 is Grim Reaper, a character that never should have died. I felt like I could go for someone obvious by saying like Finnick from the Hunger Games, because I love Finnick. But although there's like that thing of I wish they'd never died, I feel like most character deaths serve a purpose. There's like a point to them in the narrative that the author's trying to make. So again, this one very much like is a plot point ending, but from a survival mode, it makes me kind of sad that this person died. So this is a massive spoiler. So if you want to like skip ahead a little bit until I get past this book, I'm going to be talking about You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kalynn Bayron. So spoilers now. Throughout this book, obviously, several people die because this is like a slasher. There's a like escape room-esque game that these teenagers work at, where they like recreate a horror movie. You're supposed to escape the horror movie. But while they're at this camp where they work, people actually start getting hurt and start dying or going missing. So that's like the plot of this. There's several twists and turns. It took a direction I wasn't expecting. But at the very end, after everything they've gone through, our main character, Charity, and her girlfriend are like at the edge of the lake. They're with the people who have been revealed to be behind like the killings and such. And I was reading it going like, how are they gonna get out of this? How is our main character gonna like keep fighting? She's been like tough so far. She's been making her way through this. She's been surviving. How is she going to get out of this last little bit? Because there's not many pages left. She doesn't. She gets killed. And it made me so angry. Because in that situation, it does feel realistic that you probably would just die. You would be murdered. But it makes me really sad when like a character who's fought so hard and has like taken control and has tried to save other people ends up dying. So that was sad. There is then another little twist at the very end, which I could be interpreted in a couple of ways, but like sort of adds on to that death in a kind of wild way. But like I feel like that character never should have died in the way that I think like surviving for so long and fighting so hard, like it's not fair that you died. But like it does round off the ending, so I'm not like they never should have died for the purpose of the novel, because like that is the end of the novel and that's what makes it so like gut-wrenching. So yes, Charity is a character that like theoretically shouldn't have died. Prompt 6, Zombie, a book that made you hungry for more. For that I'm going with The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This is a post-apocalyptic dystopian sci-fi fantasy, very intense, multiple timelines that come together in a really interesting way. We leave off on a character who has sort of been out of the story for a while, coming back into it, and yeah, leaving us on a sort of bold question. So I really want to know what is going to happen in the next books, and because the interesting narrative style of this with the different timelines sort of comes to a point where I don't think you can continue doing that in the other books. I'm interested to see how those are written and like narratively set out. So there are multiple reasons why I'm interested in the sequels and like really want to get to them after this one sitting on my TBR for so long. Finally read it and now I'm like, yes, I should have read this earlier. I need more. So The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin has left me hungry for more. Prompt 7, Gargoyle, a character you would protect at all costs. Don't have the book with me. I left this one at home accidentally. But a character I would protect at all costs is Catherine Morland from Northanger Abbey. Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. It's like a send-up of the Gothic literature style, about a young woman who gets invited to go away with some like family friends to Bath, and then there she meets the Tilneys, this like interesting family who live at Northanger Abbey, and then they ask her to go stay with them at Northanger Abbey. And while she's there, she gets ideas about what happened at this abbey and the death of the mum in the family. She's just a very sweet, naive kind of character who sort of lets her imagination get the best of her at points, but never with any ill intention, which is why I like protect her, because she's very sweet, she's very kind, she's very trusting, but then quite fanciful. I really like her as a character. I highly recommend Northanger Abbey. I feel like you don't need people to recommend Austen to you, but of Austen's books, I do think it's one of her more underrated novels. But yeah, I just really like Catherine, and Mr. Tilney, her love interest, is great. Prompt 8, Vampire, a book that sucked the life out of you. For me, that would be The House We Grew Up In by Lisa Jewell. I read this sort of this time last year in October for Spookopolython. I did not like that book. It was about a family coming together after the death of the mum, and like they've not seen each other for a while. Like shit went down in the past, and it's, yeah, them coming together again to deal with everything. But it was just so bleak. I think by the end you're meant to feel kind of hope that these characters are coming back together, but so much stuff happens with like cheating, death, leaving family members, like leaving kids and partners, more cheating, another death, that it just felt like, oh, so bleak. None of the characters were particularly likable. I just found it just, oh, I was like struggling to get through, but also wanting to read it quickly because I just wanted to be done with it. So yeah, that really was draining to read. So I will go with The House We Grow Up In. Prompt 9, Ghost, a book that still haunts you. I have gone for The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This I read years ago. I've not yet read the sequels. I feel like I need to reread this. If you read this, you'll know that there's like, it's dark throughout and it's intense and there's lots of fighting and violence, etc. But there is one particular chapter where they come across this village, this city, this area where a lot of fighting has just gone down and like it's just been raided, and they see the aftermath of this army moving through, and the descriptions of like how people have been killed, this female character telling the story of what happened to her and other women, and what she witnessed, is like truly horrific. And I know that this is inspired by stuff like the rape of Nanking. This, yeah, it's a tough read, and I once like told my sister what happened, and she was just like, "My God." So yeah, this, like, even though it's been like 5 years since I read this, I think about that, specifically that chapter, and also the very end of this book, a lot. And I feel like I need to reread it and read the rest of the series and just sit with the atrocities that these characters witness and commit. So that is a book that still haunts me. 10 is Demon, a book that really scared you. For this, it's not a specific book, it's like moments in books, because I don't know that I've read a book that has ever like terrified me the whole way through. But there are moments in stuff like Horrorstör and How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix that like get me a little bit. And it's when like people or things are in places where they shouldn't be, or people see things in places they shouldn't be. So there's a moment in Horrorstör where they're all like in this big IKEA-esque building at night because they think there's been like intruders or something's going on, and they're watching like the security cameras. If I remember correctly, it's been a while since I read this, and on the security cameras they notice just like a pair of legs, just in one of the little like dining room setups. And that made me go like, ooh, a little bit. And then in House on a Haunted House, there are moments where the main character like walks into a room and there are like puppets sat on the chair, and so she like moves them so they're not there, and then she goes back to the house another time and the puppets aren't where she left them, and she just goes, oh, like my brother must have moved them to like freak me out or whatever. But obviously we as the reader know that like something is going on, this is a horror book. And so that like, did those puppets move by themselves? Like, what is going on? So yeah, it's like moments in books like that where people or things have like moved or are in places they shouldn't be. That's what gets me. So those are the things I find scary. And those are both Grady Hendrix books, so you know, he he's good at writing those moments, I would say. Prompt 11, skeleton, a character you have a bone to pick with. And for this, I'm going with a character who's like widely known, but in this specific book, and that is Odysseus in Clytemnestra. Odysseus, like in general, but specifically in Clytemnestra, because at the start of this book, so many men are horrible in this book. Horrible men. Odysseus, in like the first half, actually alright. Like, Clytemnestra sort of knows not to trust him because she thinks he's very clever, very tricksy, which he is, but for all intents and purposes, he's really nice to her. He's nice to her cousin Penelope, who he ends up marrying. He sort of looks out for them, gives them advice, shares his thoughts. They all get on in like a really lovely little friendship. And then the Trojan War starts, and there's a whole scene where, if you know like the myth, the men are trying to like set sail and there's no wind to carry their ships, and so they think they have to give a sacrifice to the gods in order to get wind to help them. And it seems that it's Odysseus's idea, or the men collectively come up with this idea, and Odysseus is like an integral part of tricking Clytemnestra into coming and helping with this plan, but she doesn't know what's actually going on until like the very last moment, and it's a really horrible scene. And up until that point, Odysseus had been like seemingly quite nice, and then he does such a callous, horrible thing to someone who is supposed to be his friend. So I have a bone to pick with Odysseus. Oh, what a dickhead. All the men in this suck. But yes, I will personally fight Odysseus. Prompt 12 is Mummy, a book you would preserve throughout time. For this, I'm going with one I read as a teenager and then reread as a slightly older teenager. And that is The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. This is about a young girl, like a teenage girl, whose sister dies. And this is like all about her grief and how she deals with her sister dying. There's a little bit of romance in there. There's like a really questionable relationship between the girl and her dead sister's boyfriend, and them like trying to deal with their grief together. I just remember like really being affected by it, and I think Jandy Nelson's such a beautiful writer and handles like really intense topics well. I've not read this in years, but I remember like loving it when I first read it and thinking it really held up when I read it a second time. So this one, I feel like a lot of people know her other book, I'll Give You the Sun, But this was before that, and this is the book that really turned me on to reading Jandy Nelson. So this one I would preserve throughout time. I think it's a really great, hard-hitting young adult novel. And the last prompt is 13, Creepy Doll, a cover too scary to look at. Now, I don't have this book physically. It is my sister's, much like the Grady Hendrix books, are ones I borrowed from my sister. But if you have seen the cover to Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Khor, that's a freaky book, man. Did I like the book itself? No, not particularly. But the cover, freaky. All of Cassandra Khor's books really have like intense, freaky, kind of scary, creepy covers. But Nothing But Blackened Teeth is the creepiest. Go look it up if you've not seen it. And yeah, tell me that's not like weird. That is it for this tag, the Halloween creature book tag. How would you answer any of these prompts? Let me know. What is your favourite Halloween creature? Are you dressing up for Halloween this year? Do let me know in the comments below, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye!